Welcome back to Every Disney Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Every Disney Movie Ever. Today I'm going to be talking about Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok is a 2017 theatrical release about Thor having to defeat his sister Hela before she destroys the Nine Realms. It's directed by Taika Waititi, cinematography by Javier Aguirresarobe, editing by Zene Baker and Joel Negron. Music by Mark Mothersbaugh, and it's written by Eric Pearson, Craig Kyle, and Christopher L. Yost. The film stars Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Cate Blanchett as Hela, Idris Elba as Heimdall, Jeff Goldblum as Grand Master, Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, and Mark Ruffalo as Hulk. It was announced in 2014. It then was also announced that Chris and Tom would return. The title ended up being announced in October. Alan Taylor, who directed the sequel, said he would not return due to his experience. He said he was given tons of freedom during filming, but then when it came to editing, all of his freedom was basically stripped away. Taika Waititi submitted a sizzle reel of what he kind of wanted to do with the third one if they chose him. Marvel loved what he submitted and went with him. They toyed with ideas of what to do with the Hulk. They stroked a deal to film in Australia because Chris really had wanted to film closer to home, i.e. Australia. Lots of casting happened in 2016. They had physicists as consultants on like all the wormhole stuff. And they wanted a newer and fresher feel. They began filming on July 4th, 2016. They filmed all over Queensland. They provided job for Indigenous and Aboriginal people. Tons of improv. They got Matt Damon, to do the joke role. The film was originally 2 hours and 40 minutes, and then they took it down to 90 minutes, and then after a screening, they were like, and they beefed it back up to like 2 hours and 10 minutes. There were 17 VFX companies that had a $180 million budget and made $855 million in the box office. It's got a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes consensus. Exciting, funny, and above all, fun. Thor Ragnarok is a colorful cosmic adventure that sets a new standard for its franchise and the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then it's obviously followed by Thor Love and Thunder, released in 2022. Cinematography was great. I don't think it stands out against any other Marvel movie, but it's on par, which is pretty good. The film flies. I never felt like any part of it was boring. I felt like nothing dragged. It's pretty, I'm thrilled to hear, like, they got it down to 90 minutes. I'd love to see that cut and see what they, left out. And I feel like the story they told and presented was necessary and worked. Obviously, we all know the Immigrant song has become like a theme for this movie. It was a big deal. It was a great needle drop. Everyone loves it. The actual score, I did not remember being as synthy as it is. It's a very like synth, retro 80s feel score, and honestly, it worked. Like, I know it's not a typical Thor vibe, especially because Thor is very like Viking, like coded and all. I mean, they end up in Norway, for God's sake, so like, I think it's just interesting that the score itself was very like 80s synth kind of inspired, and it worked for the movie. There were multiple moments I was like, oh, okay, score, go off. I think this has a great opening. I think Thor being stuck with Surta and like doing a whole like voiceover, but he's talking to the skeleton, is really entertaining. And then just the whole like air of Thor being unbothered by Surta, even though he's tied in chains, and he's rotating. He's like, hang on. Like, that's a really great setup for how far Thor has come as a character and how like much he's grown. Because that confidence, while also being like, it's not like, I'll just take that crown off your head so you don't destroy Asgard. I've been having these nightmares, blah, blah, blah. And then with that, him getting back to, him hearing about what's going on in Asgard, and then him getting, like, sort of saying Odin's not in Asgard, and Thor clocking that, and then Thor getting home and like seeing everything and is like, oh no, of course. I think one of the best things in this movie, which might be silly, is that Thor has grown wise to Loki's tricks. I think that is such a great dynamic in this movie, because like it could get really tiring if Loki can just always continuously trick Thor, but Thor growing and getting wise to Loki's tricks and being able to like catch him in them and even trick him back, like that's really great. And even the fact that Thor says, you know, like, we've always done this over and over, and, you know, it's called growth. Like, I've grown, you know, blah, blah, blah. And you just are the same, and that's, you know, fine. Or whatever. I think that's really, really great. I think it's a great dynamic for this movie, because it's not Thor constantly being disappointed by Loki, because now he expects it. Like, that whole conversation in the elevator where he's like, you know, I thought the world of you, but you know, you'll get what you've always wanted, which is to be as far away from me as possible, or whatever. And Loki kind of being like, oh, like, uh-oh, because Thor is like able to like be fully honest with him, but then also not fall for his tricks. Like, it's just, I love that dynamic. I think it also makes it more fun for the audience, because Thor catching him in his trick is also like really fun and entertaining, instead of getting tired of like Thor just falling for the trick. In regards to that, my favorite is him holding his head and waiting for Mjolnir to come back to his hand. I think that's so funny, because I yield, and like everyone's like, oh, like he'd been keeping that on for how long? And then just Thor threatening the Mjolnir to his hand moment was so good. I also think Friend from Work, when he sees the Hulk and is all excited, is so good. I think You're Embarrassing Me, I told them we were friends. I think that's funnier that he's a friend from work. Get Help, I know, is obviously iconic. I just think this movie has such a good balance of humor and heart. And then I also think the moments between Thor and Loki, and Thor and Valkyrie, and, you know, Thor and Bruce, just all of those are really good. I think Hela is such an interesting character. The fact that she comes in and is like, oh, Odin would erase all this history, and everyone's like, who the heck are you? And then she like breaks the ceiling and reveals that that's like who Odin was with her, is so crazy. And then the fact that like she had Mjolnir, which like, how was she worthy of Mjolnir? And she like broke Mjolnir, and that shows how powerful she is so crazy. I just think it's a really, really interesting movie. I think it's a really good growing point for Thor. I think it was a good fresh and refeel of Thor, because his movies were kind of, you know, and this is definitely, I know this is a lot of people's favorite Marvel movie, and it's definitely like deservedly so. I think this movie really sets up how much range Chris Hemsworth has. I don't know if we have big Chris Hemsworth fans in the audience right now, but he was also in Furiosa, and he was Dementus, and he is almost unrecognizable, but his character is disgusting, and he does a fantastic job in that movie, and he's a very good actor. And so I think you can kind of see that starting in this, because he went from kind of a much more serious, like, brawly god in the first two to kind of a jokey, I've learned a lot guy and leader, and it's really good, and I love that. Cate Blanchett, she slays the house down every time. Every time it's Cate Blanchett. My favorite part is probably the God of Thunder moment. It's very rewarding and worth it. You've had teases of it, you know, throughout the movie, but this moment where, you know, his dad is like, you don't need the hammer, what are you the god of? And then, you know, and it strikes Hela, and he flies down the Bifrost Bridge. It's just so good. Least favorite part? Probably when Loki has that moment with Thor in the elevator, and he realizes, and then he still tries to trick him after. It's just so heartbreaking. Heartbreaking? Sorry, my brain is everywhere. But the fact that Thor gives him even that little speech while he's, you know, being electrocuted, he's like, you know, It's called growth. And if you want to be the god of mischief and do this forever, fine. But, you know, people learn. And I think that's really sad, but, like, it's still really good. So I don't know. Recommend, of course. This is definitely peak Marvel movie. I think the only movie that beats this for me is probably Infinity War. This is really good. It's a really good movie. Watch again, of course. I'm sure I will. Matt Damon, Chris's brother, Sam Neill all in that play. Super fun. Jeff Goldblum. Come on. What a guy. He's perfect for that role. His like little henchman that was like always like, here, and he's like, no, I don't need the melt stick. He was just interrupting. Like, it's stuff like that is so good. It's funny, it's fun, it's excellent. That's it. My final rating is gonna be 8. Oh god, what should I do? 8 Bifrost swords? Sure. 8 Bifrost swords out of 10. Our total movie count is. Our parent death toll is! Oh, I just registered that. Pride count is still the same. If you want to keep up with what movie I'm watching when, follow me on all socials to find out what movie I'm watching when. I put out videos every Monday and Friday and sometimes Wednesday. Join Patreon. I got a tier starting at just $1. You get every video a week early. Tiers above that, daily trivia, monthly postcards, bonus content, etc. Join Patreon. I already said that. Buy merch. Merch is great. Merch is grand. Go check it out. Until next time, comment and subscribe, but I'm not in charge of your life. You are, so do, and don't be hella about it, for sure. Totally forgot about the parent death. And it happens, like, right away. I'm an idiot. Brutal.